Welcome back. So, this session we are going to discuss the large intestine. So, yesterday I discussed the small intestine, the next region in the digestive system. So, in the gastrointestinal tract is the large intestine. So, the large intestine, so next to the small intestine, so which consists of what are the regions in the large intestine? Cecum, colon and rectum. Cecum, colon and rectum. So, these were the regions of the parts of that large intestine. So, which is called the cecum. See, this is the small intestine, that small intestine joins here. So, after that, the large intestine, okay, large intestine, okay, the region where the small intestine attaches with the large intestine. So, this region, okay, so this is, this region, that sac-like, that blind sac-like region, that is cecum. Cecum. Then after cecum, that is, this is colon, okay, actually that is a large intestine, colon, okay, this is a colon, colon, that regions ascending colon, this is ascending and this is transverse and descending. Next is that sigmoidal colon, so that after the sigmoidal colon is rectum, rectum opens exterior through the anus. Okay, that one by one we are going to discuss. The first is the cecum, where the small intestine join, the junction of the small and large intestine. So, here a small sac, that is a finger-like projection in that cecum, that sac-like structure, a small finger-like projection is there, that is called vermiform appendix. Okay, yeah, a narrow finger-like projection, a narrow finger-like projection. See, a narrow finger-like projection is there. So, that is vermiform, that is appendix, it is generally it is called appendix, it is vermiform, that is rudimentary or underdeveloped. So, rudimentary or underdeveloped, okay, that is why it is called vermiform appendix. So, it is non-functional, no any specific function, it is a rudimentary. So, but in herbivorous animals like goat and cow, so this appendix is so very much it is elongated, it is long and functional. So, where some bacteria, some of the symbiotic bacteria are residing, that bacteria produce the enzyme called cellulase, cellulase, so that digest the cellulose, okay, that digest the cellulose, that plant material, you know, that the cell wall is made up of cellulose. I have studied botany, that digest the cellulose. We are unable to digest the cellulose, that is why we cook the food and eat. But some of the herbivorous plants, some of the herbivorous plants, that appendix, that is, it is well developed and that is responsible for the digestion of the cellulose, but for us it is rudimentary, non-functional. So, why it is seen in human, it is non-functional, vermiform. So, that is one of the evolutionary evidence that it shows that we developed from such animal where the appendix is functional. Okay, from that animal we developed, that is the evolutionary significance, that is what. Okay, some additional information. And what are the regions? What are the regions of the large intestine? Cecum, colon and rectum. So, cecum, that so far we have discussed, and the colon, Okay, it's nothing but large intestine. What are the regions were there in the colon? I said, that is ascending colon, ascending, rises up, மேல போகுது. அப்புறம் transverse, புரியுதுங்களா? Transverse, okay, horizontal, and then coming down, that is descending, and here that is slightly S-shaped, sigmoidal, sigmoidal colon, sigmoidal, this is sigmoidal colon. So that opens into the dilated sac-like region, sac-like, that is rectum, where fecal matters are stored, that rectum. Rectum opens exterior through the anus. See here, if you see externally, so that colon or the large intestine, which is not it is a continuous, it is lined with the dilations. See here, it is lined with the dilations. Dilations means the projections. Okay, it is dilated. Dilated means it is swells up. It's not a continuous, not like this. Okay, it's a parallel. That is, what is that? It is some dilations were there outside. Some dilations that are called haustra. Maybe 2 mark or 1 mark. Okay. The colon is lined with the dilations which are called haustra. What is haustra or define haustra? 2 marks or 1 mark, that large intestine which is lined with dilations, which are lined with dilations that are called dash. Right? It may be the objective. The colon, and next, that is after the sigmoidal, that is ascending, transverse, descending, sigmoidal, that opens in the rectum. This is important, rectum. Okay, the rectum, see here, this is rectum, where the fecal matters, undigested waste materials which are stored temporarily, which opens exterior through the, see, this is not directly here, this is rectum. The rectum opens exterior through the anus, the anal canal. Then after rectum is anal canal. That anal canal opens outside through the anus, that opening. Anal canal. So listen. So this is rectum. Not directly rectum opens exterior through the anus. So rectum, that is anal canal. So anal canal, and which opens exterior through the opening, that is the anus. Okay, and anal canal which is of 2 to 3 centimeter. Anal canal, so which is that ranges from 2 to 3 centimeter length. After the rectum, anal canal, and the opening is anus. Here there are 2 sphincter muscles are there. 2 sphincter muscle, sphincter, that the muscles which regulates the flow of the fecal matter. That sphincter muscles, this is the internal sphincter and this is the external sphincter. External, that is internal, inside, internal sphincter and external sphincter. There are 2 sphincter muscles are there. Okay, and listen, very important. So here in the anal canal, that inner lining, that mucosal lining are folded. So inner, that mucosal lining, that inner lining which are folded and contains arteries and veins. Listen, arteries and veins, that contains arteries and veins. Which one? That anal canal. Here, that anal canal internally, that is, it consists of the folds that contains the arteries and veins that are called anal columns. That are called anal columns. Okay, anal column, internally, anal column. Sometimes that arteries and veins which get enlarged, that anal column sometimes get enlarged. So that disease is called, that abnormality is called piles or hemorrhoids. Piles or hemorrhoids. It is nothing but that swelling of the enlargement of that anal column. What are anal column? That veins and arteries which are found in that anal canal, which are called anal column. that enlarged and causes the piles or hemorrhoids. Piles or hemorrhoids. தமிழில் மூலம் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறாங்கல்ல, அதான் பைல்ஸ்னா மூலம். Piles or hemorrhoids. This is separate 2 marks question. This is separate 2 marks question. So define what is piles or hemorrhoids. What is anal column? What is anal column? What is piles? So these are the short answers. Sphincter muscles. 2 sphincters are there, and this internal sphincter, it works involuntary. Involuntarily it works. Involuntary. And external sphincter, which is voluntary. Okay, you know, voluntary and involuntary, we can, if it is under our control, that is voluntary. Okay, not beyond our control, not within our control, we cannot control that function, that is involuntary. This ஒரு question கேட்பாங்க, out of these two, which is voluntary, which is involuntary. நீங்கள் ஈஸியாக ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கலாம். internal sphincter, internal in, involuntary. Okay, involuntary in IN, internal IN. So match பண்ணிக்கோங்க. So that the internal sphincter is involuntary in nature, involuntary, and the external sphincter is voluntary. Okay, we can open with our wish, we can open and close. So this external sphincter muscles that regulate the flow of the feces, feces that undigested waste materials. Okay, that's all. So that's all. The alimentary canal, okay, or gastrointestinal tract from mouth to anus, we have discussed, right? Then next is the gut, histology of gut. Okay, இப்போ அந்த ட்ராக் சொல்கிறோம் இல்லைங்களா, அந்த பாத் பேசேஜ் மவுத் டு ஏனஸ் சொல்கிறோம். ஸோ அது எப்படி, ஹவு இட் இஸ் மேட் அப் ஆஃப், தட் இஸ் ஹிஸ்டாலஜி. என்ன டிஷ்யூஸ், எப்படி சார் அது ஆயிருக்கும்? ஓகே, வாட் இஸ் தி நேச்சர்? ஓகே, எப்படி, ஹவு தி tissues which were arranged. So then that is the histology of the gut, is separate 5 marks question. Histology of the gut. So right, the wall of the alimentary canal, see, if you are take the section, okay, alimentary canal, that is if we take the section, that cross section, if we take, it shows some 4 layers. 4 layers. So what are they? Simply for your easy understanding, recalling, SMS ஒரு ஃபெமிலியர் இல்லைங்களா, இன்னைக்கு வாட்ஸ்அப்பு, எஸ்எம்எஸ்ஸு, செல்ஃபோனு, மிஸ்டு கால், இது நம்ம ஒரு நாளைக்கு ஒரு 1000 தடவையாவது இது நம்ம இந்த வேர்டை யூஸ் பண்ணிவிடுவோம். டச்சு ஸ்க்ரீனு இல்லைங்களா, ஆண்ட்ராய்டு, செல்ஃபோன். ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி இப்போ எஸ்எம்எஸ், இப்போ எஸ்எம்எஸ்லாம் ஓல்டு. இப்போ யார் எஸ்எம்எஸ், வாட்ஸ்அப் அனுப்புடா, இல்லை இன்ஸ்டாகிராம், வாட்ஸ்அப், ஃபேஸ்புக், எது சொல்கிறோம். ஸோ அது மாதிரி எஸ்எம்எஸ் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. எஸ்எம்எஸ், எஸ்எம்எஸ், எஸ்எம்எஸ் அனுப்புன்னு சொல்கிறாங்களா, அதான் ஸ்கூல்லேருந்து எஸ்எம்எஸ் வந்திருக்கு. இப்போ எஸ்எம்எஸ் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க, இன்னொரு எம் போட்டுக்கோங்க, அவ்வளோதான். பேசிக்காக ஸ்கெலிட்டன் பேஸ் வந்து எஸ்எம்எஸ். அது என்னது, ஃபஸ்ட்டு வந்து என்னது, செரோசா, M muscularis, then another S is called submucosa. Submucosa and mucosa. Okay, that 4 layers, that gut intestine which is made up of 4 layers. 4 layers, they are, that 4 layers are serosa, that outermost, see, this outermost layer, this is the serosa, serosa layer. And the next is the muscularis. இங்கே இருக்கு பாருங்க, இதான், this is the muscularis. And the next, that pink color இருக்கு பாருங்க, this is called submucosa. This layer, submucosa. And innermost layer, so this is the mucosa, mucosal. It is a layer. Mucosa, it is a innermost, as a loose layer, that innermost layer. So these are the 4 layers from the esophagus to, okay, rectum, esophagus to rectum, that gastrointestinal tract is made up of 4 layers. 4 layers. What are they? Mention the 4 layers of the gut. 2 marks. Mention the 2 layers. SMS. SMS or M. Another M. SMS M. Okay. SMS M. Serosa, muscularis, submucosa and mucosa. From esophagus to rectum. That intestine is made up of these 4 layers. 4 layers. And in 1 mark, okay, in 1 mark we are going outer to inner. See, outer to inner. Outermost is the serosa. Outer to inner we are going. Sometimes in objective that order will be shuffled, which is the correct order of the that layer of the intestine. So will be asked as objective question. So first SMS, that's why I said SMS. Serosa, muscularis, okay, submucosa and finally mucosa. That layers, order shuffle panni kuduthittu, which is correct order. அந்த மாதிரி கேட்பாங்க. Okay, outside to inside. And that nature of the each and every layers. That serosa, it is the outermost. Serosa is the outermost layer and which is thin. Okay, thin and made up of squamous epithelium. Squamous epithelium with some connective tissues. நான் அதெல்லாம் பத்தி சொல்லவே மாட்டேன் நான். So already in tissues we have discussed everything. The types of epithelium. Okay, that squamous epithelium and some connective tissue. That serosa, outermost layer. Don't by heart. Listen me. Outermost, thin, made up of squamous epithelium and some connective tissues. Okay, some connective tissues. That's outermost. Okay, that gives that rigidity. Then next is the muscularis. Then next to the serosa is this layer. This is a muscularis. The smooth, it is made up of smooth, circular and longitudinal muscle. Circular and longitudinal muscles. Muscle இப்படி circular இருக்கும், lengthwise. Okay, in both the muscles, that circular and the longitudinal muscle fibers are there. And so here that muscles which are richly supplied with nerve cells, nerve fibers, that nerves, richly supplied with the nerves. Why? That nerves that control the intestine, sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. Sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. அப்படின்னா not under our control. நம்ம digestion, stomach movement, intestine movement, we cannot control because that is specially controlled by the autonomous nervous system. நீங்க பார்த்திருப்பீங்க, sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves இருக்கும். அவங்க தான் என்ன பண்றாங்க? That muscles, நம்ம சொன்னோம் அந்த ஃபுட் எப்படி போகும் அது பார்க்க போறோம். peristaltic wave. Food after reaching the stomach, that stomach, that is what is that? That contracts and relaxes. That churning action that grinds the food. That all the intestine, it's not it's just the pipe. It's not remain okay open always or dilated. It contracts and relaxes. Okay, it functions like heart. Okay, சுருங்கி விரியுது. அப்ப without this muscle that longitudinal and circular muscles, that contraction and relaxation of the intestine is impossible. So that there is a muscle, and that muscle is supplied with the nerve cells, parasympathetic nerves, sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. It is autonomous. Okay, that is the autonomous components of the autonomous nervous system. So independent work பண்ணுவாங்க. Involuntary in actions. வாலண்டரினா பிரச்சனையே கிடையாது. நான் காலையில் சாப்பிடுவேன், இதுக்கப்புறம் நைட்டு தான் சாப்பிடுவேன், இந்த ஃபுட் அப்படியே கொஞ்சமாக பார்த்துக்கோ அப்படின்னு சொன்னால் கேட்கணும். அப்படின்னா இட்ஸ் வாலண்டரி. இட்ஸ் நாட் லைக் தட். அப்போ இன்வாலண்டரி. ஓகே, அந்த சுருங்கி விரிகிறது இன்டெஸ்டைன், அதெல்லாம் ஆல் பிகாஸ் ஆஃப் திஸ் மஸ்குலாரிஸ் அண்ட் சப்மியூகோசா. Listen, the third layer from outer, it is made up of loose connective tissue. Loose connective tissue. Interla pora, that is koncham loose ah, not hard irukadu. That is loose connective tissue and containing, see, nerves, blood vessels and lymphatic vessels. Okay, are there. Mainly nerves, that is that sympathetic nerves. That is a type of the that autonomous nerve, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Here sympathetic nerves are there. Okay, these nerves that control the secretion. Nama sonnalangla, the walls of the intestine also, it secrete the digestive enzymes. Walls of the stomach secrete the gastric juice. Walls of the stomach, inner wall of the stomach, gastric juice. And the walls of the small intestine also secrete the enzymes. So that the secretion is controlled by the sympathetic nerve. Very important, 1 mark. Okay, that sympathetic nerve fibers control the secretion of the intestinal juice. 1 mark, internal. புரியுங்களா? which secrete the brain எழுதக்கூடாது, nerve எழுதுனா மார்க் வராது. Specifically you have to write the sympathetic nerve. Okay, this that submucosal, that pink color, which is richly supplied with this loose connective tissue made up of, that is richly supplied with nerves, blood vessels and lymph. Okay, and what is that parasympathetic nerve? Mainly that control the secretion, that secretion of the intestine. And the innermost layer is the that is what is that? Mucosa. Okay, mucosal layer. Mucosal layer that secrete the mucus, and that form that is a layer, that lumen. Inside the lumen, that form the lumen means that inner, that space. Okay, the lumen. So because of this arrangement of the intestine, that is a lot of digestive process takes place. Whatever the food you eat, so that digest. Where it takes place? Inside the intestine. That intestine is made up of, after all it is a muscle. Okay, after all it's not made up of iron or hardest, that tungsten like that. It is a normal muscle it is made up of. How it is that muscles, that the intestine protected by the action of the enzymes because of this arrangement, so that the mucus secretion. Okay, here that mucus secretion, that form a layer, that protective layer, so that protect the tissues of the intestine from the action of the enzymes. See, you know, the stomach HCl, highly concentrated HCl is secreted. Okay, that cannot damage because of this. So that arrangement, that histological, so that arrangement of that intestine that protects the action of the enzymes, that protect the that intestine from the action of enzymes, right? That's all. Almost the gastrointestinal tract or the alimentary canal were completed. That components of the digestive system. Okay, it is composed of the tract, alimentary canal or gastrointestinal tract that starts from mouth and ends in anus. That area completed. Then next is the accessory glands or the digestive glands which are associated with the alimentary canal. So without the digestive glands or accessory gland, that chemical digestion is impossible. Okay, that glands that secrete the enzymes, that enzymes act as the biological catalyst. That enzymes which act as the biological catalyst. So the digestive glands which secrete the enzymes. So that என்ன சார் இங்கே எக்ஸோக்ரைன் கிளாண்ட்ஸ்னு கொடுத்துருக்காங்க, மேலே ஹெட்டிங் டைஜஸ்டிவ் கிளாண்ட்னு போட்டிருக்கீங்க, இங்கே எக்ஸோக்ரைன் கிளாண்ட். அது என்ன சார்? கிளாண்ட்ஸ் ஆர் செக்ரிட்டரி இன் நேச்சர். Glands are secretory. What is exocrine? There are that glands can be divided into two based on the presence or absence of the duct. Duct. If it is ducted, that is exocrine. Adana duct edukku sir. See, this is one gland. So imagine this is salivary gland. It secretes saliva. That saliva is taken to the target organ. Enga venumo anga. That saliva is taken to the target organ. Inga irukum. Adu enna pannum through the that salivary duct. This is salivary gland. This is salivary gland. What is this? The tube. This is called salivary duct. Okay. Salivary duct. Duct means tube. So salivary duct carry the secretion. And the saliva carry pannadhu enga target organ. Target enga ponumo anga carry pandranga. If there is a duct, that is called exocrine. If no duct, endocrine. That's all. Okay, what are the digestive glands which are located? What are the digestive glands which are located or associated with the digestive system? They are salivary gland. Now name the glands. You know the names of the glands alone. Salivary gland, liver, pancreas, okay, and gastric glands. Gastric gland, that walls of the stomach has the gastric gland, okay, gastric gland, and intestinal gland, and intestinal gland. Finally, that intestinal gland, that is the intestinal mucosa, that inner layer. So that also already we discussed that crypts of Leiber-Kuhn, that secretory cells are there, that are called crypts of Leiber-Kuhn. Okay, that are collectively called, generally called intestinal gland. So name the digestive glands. Come on, one by one. Salivary gland, liver, pancreas, that gastric gland. Simply you write the gastric gland and intestinal gland. And intestinal gland. There are 5 that is different glands are there that secrete the all are the exocrine in nature and secrete the enzymes, that enzymes which act as the biocatalyst, So now let us discuss one by one. The first is the salivary gland. Salivary gland. Okay, salivary gland, where it is located, how many, what is the secretion. Okay, everything we are going to discuss in detail. Salivary gland. It is where it is located. So located inside the mouth, in the buccal cavity area. Okay, inside that mouth, buccal cavity area, it is located. So inside the mouth, salivary gland. How many? 3 pairs of salivary gland. 3 pairs of salivary gland. What are they? What are they? Parotid. See. Parotid, sublingual and submandibular. There are 3 pairs. Three pairs of salivary gland. What are they? Parunga 3 pairs. Enadhu? Parotid, submaxillary or submandibular. Submaxillary or submandibular and sublingual. So don't worry, we will explain one by one. 3 pairs. First, how many? 3 pairs. That name, parotid, submaxillary or submandibular, sublingual. Parotid, see, parotid, where it is located in the cheek region. Cheeks, kannam, cheeks, in front of the ear. In front of the ear, cheek. That parotid is the largest. 1 mark, MCQ. Parotid is the largest. Largest. Parotid. Submaxillary or submandibular. Below the ear. Upper jaw and lower jaw in the junction. Connect பண்றதுல இங்க இருக்கும். அதான் submaxillary or submandibular. And sublingual, lingua, tongue, below the tongue, that is called sublingual, below the tongue, the 3 pairs. And see, very important MCQ or 2 marks. Already, as we discussed, it is the exocrine. So the ducts which are associated to carry the secretion. So name of the gland and duct is important. Parotid Stenson's duct. Right? And submaxillary or submandibular Wharton's duct. Okay, submaxillary or submandibular Wharton's duct. Okay, submaxillary or submandibular. The duct arises from that gland is Wharton's duct, and sublingual Bartholin's duct. Sublingual Bartholin's duct. That is very, very important. So that the order will be shuffled and match. Okay, which matching or A, B, C, D is given. Which is the correct pairing you have to choose. So you write this is the name of the gland and duct. And duct right here. Parotid Stenson's duct. Stenson's duct. And submandibular Wharton's duct. Wharton's duct. Sublingual, okay, Bartholin's duct. See, so I'll tell you one memory technique how to recollect this name of the gland and duct. Parotid, it is, that is largest. Parotid, largest. Appa large family. Tenson அப்படின்னு ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. ஸ்டென்சன் வேணா, டென்சன் அப்படின்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. 10 குழந்தைங்க அப்படின்ற மாதிரி. அப்போ பெரிய லார்ஜ் ஃபேமிலி, அப்போ லார்ஜ் கிளாண்டு, டென்சன், அதான் ஸ்டென்சன். 10 பிக்கெஸ்ட் ஃபேமிலி, பிக் ஃபேமிலி. அப்போ பெரோட்டிட் ஸ்டென்சன்ஸ். அப்புறம் சப்மாண்டிபுலார் ஆர் மேக்ஸிலரி. சப்மாண்டிபுலார் எம் அப்படியே வந்து பாருங்க, அப்சைட் டவுன் பண்ணுங்க. எம் வந்து என்ன அப்சைட் டவுன் பண்ணீங்கன்னா டபிள்யூ ஆயிடும். பாருங்க, அதான் பாருங்க, வார்டன்ஸ் டக்ட். இது எம் அப்படி போட்டிங்கன்னா டபிள்யூ, புரியுதுங்களா? டபிள்யூ. பாருங்க, தட் இஸ் எம் வந்து பண்ணுறீங்க, பரட்டி போட்டுருங்க, அவ்வளோதான். இன்வெர்டட் எம் டபிள்யூ. அப்போ மேண்டிபுலார் வார்டன்ஸ் ஈஸியாக இருக்கும். 6 months கழிச்சு எல்லாம் எவ்ரி திங் வில் பி எரேஸ்டு. இப்போ இது எரேஸ் ஆகாது. ஓகே, பரோட்டிட் லார்ஜஸ்ட் கிளாண்டு தெரியும். அப்போ லார்ஜஸ்ட்னா டென்சன்னு 10, அப்போ ஸ்டென்சன்ஸு. அப்புறம் என்ன, சப் மேண்டிபுலர் எம். அந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் லெட்டர் தெரிஞ்சாலே யூ கேன் மேட்ச். எம் டபிள்யூ, அப்போ டபிள்யூ வார்டன்ஸு. ஓகே, ரிமைனிங் வந்து பார்த்தோலின்ஸ். Sublingual, below the tongue, that is the Bartholin's. And so these are the ducts and glands. This is objective point of view important. And the salivary gland produces saliva. That secretion is called saliva. Okay, how much it produces? What is the quantity? 1000 to 1500 ml. 24 hours per day secretion. That saliva, it secretes 1000 to 1500 ml, 1 to 1.5 liter per day secretion. Per day secretion that ranges between 1000 to and 1500 ml. எவ்வளோ பாது? Then next is the gastric gland. So next is the gastric gland. Gastric gland, that walls of the stomach. The walls of the stomach that possess the glands that are called gastric gland. See, that walls of the stomach. So stomach, that inner walls have the secretory cells that are called gastric glands. So the secretory cells commonly called gastric glands, that what are the different types of gastric, that is that secretory cells are there? Very important. Chief cells or peptic cells or zymogen cells. Okay. Who are they? Chief cells or peptic cells or zymogen cell. Chief cell or peptic or zymogen. They secrete enzymes like pepsin, renin, அந்த மாதிரி enzymes secrete பண்றாங்க. அப்புறம் goblet cells. These are the different types of secretory cells. Goblet cells that secrete mucus, mucus and the highly viscous that substance that covers the that inner layer that lined the stomach, that protect the action from the action of HCl. Goblet cells, parietal or oxyntic cells that secrete HCl. Parietal or oxyntic cells that secrete HCl. Parietal, this is most frequently asked MCQ, and that HCl is secreted by parietal or oxyntic cells. Okay, that secrete HCl. Also very important, intrinsic factor. Okay, intrinsic factor. Okay, intrinsic factor that responsible for the absorption of the vitamin B12. Absorption of vitamin B12. Apart from, so far you have studied only that HCl. Apart from HCl, that parietal or oxyntic cells secrete the intrinsic factor that responsible for the absorption of the B12 from the gastrointestinal tract, that is absorbed by the body, absorbed by that are called Cassell's intrinsic factor, that are called Cassell's intrinsic factor. Cassell's intrinsic factor. So these are the glands of the stomach. Okay, that gastric glands, generally gastric glands, that three types of the cells are there: chief cells or peptic, zymogen, and goblet cells, and parietal or oxyntic cells. Okay, so these are the glands which located inside that stomach. So, and rest of the glands we will discuss in the next class. Thank you.